I mean, Dave, yeah, I mean, we know from our household budgets, there's nothing galls me more, pains me than interest payments. It's just flushed money. I mean, we borrow money. It's kind of a necessity of modern financing, but you want to minimize when you can. And when we're sending more on interest payments out to than our entire military budget, I mean, what a waste.
10 cents on every dollar now going to pay the interest. I think it's now time, gentlemen, that we three apologize to our children for screwing their future by running up such a debt, and these debt repayments that are going to have to be made is going to be crippling for many, many years to come.
I think the Canadian Taxpayers Federation has got a separate division. What do they call it? Generation Screwed, is it? Yeah. That's their message. Yeah, we could apologize, but wouldn't it be a hell of a lot better to just fix it?
Well, the impetus, I mean, we would remember, though, the last time budgets got balanced within Canada and moved along, even Romanow, an NDP, premier, managed to balance the budget, though, was the interest payments were driving Canadians so bananas in the 90s. I mean, the interest rates were higher then, too. But all of these debts, I mean, people were seeing those numbers and they were floored. Like, that does motivate, responsible politicians. But we got Freeland.
Well, we saw Freeland lambasting Pierre Poilievre, saying all conservative talk about is austerity. Canadians don't want austerity. Well, I'm sorry, madam, but I think maybe some of us do, and I think maybe it's time all of us did.
If that is the case, then it's something we've learned in the last 8 years, because let me remind you of one thing. In the 2015 election, we had the balanced budget, and we campaigned, we being the Conservatives, on keeping it that way, maintaining a balanced budget, running a tight ship. You know who else campaigned on that? The NDP. Okay, so the Conservatives and the NDP were together on tight fiscal policy, good governance, not borrowing your way through life. It was the Liberals who actually promised that they would borrow money for 3 years and then balance the budget in the fourth. And people voted for that. And it wasn't just our generation that did so. It was actually the younger generation that swept Mr. Trudeau into power. So while I actually I get what you're saying about the generation screwed and we kind of owe them an apology and sort of thing, yes, but they actually have their own burden to bear in this. They voted for this guy. And the polls are now showing they've changed their mind. And boy, how about that? How about that, eh? Yes.
They are. Well, before I let Sean go then, I mean, business and energy is your beat, though. Did you see much within that update, reflecting on how it might impact that or how dependent they might be on energy revenues? Like, what did you see in there?
Well, it's funny because unlike the present Prime Minister's father, he's not trying to steal our money. He's basically trying to leave it in the ground. So no, there wasn't very much on energy specifically, or any kind of revenues or investment kind of things that they could potentially use to maybe offset some of that deficit. But there was some mention of carbon credit taxes for these carbon capture projects. These are big billion-dollar projects, and they've been promising some legislation to put through these tax credits that they've identified in previous budgets, but they haven't done so yet. And so that is apparently coming in the fall. I would imagine there's only 6 weeks left in the fall, where they're going to promise some guidelines on these investment tax credits. But I would kind of note that they were rolled in with a big, larger suite of, their pet clean electricity policies, and that somehow it looked to me that it was almost like a negotiating ploy. As you know, the federal government and the provincial governments, Alberta government, are at the energy round tables where they're supposed to be negotiating some of these clean energy regulations and emissions caps and whatnot. Jabot has taken a very hard line, but Minister Wilkinson has said that these are only starting points. And it seemed to me that what we're seeing is the beginnings of a federal opening gambit, if you will, on some of these energy issues that they've been having with Premier Smith.
Well, let's hope some economic pragmatism and reality squeaks in there from somewhere. I know not every Liberal on the seats is economically inept, but They sure seem quiet these days. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we let you go then, Sean?
Well, the other sneaker was the media bailout. They're adding another $130 million onto that. I think it was $595 million pot to bail out the legacy media. And it was buried fairly deep in the document. You had to kind of look for it. And there was about 3 little paragraphs about not only expanding the program, but extending it. It seems to me indefinitely. And so that was a bit of an issue in the newsroom for us as well.
Well, absolutely, and yeah, we'll talk a bit about that further. So I'll let you get back to your tasks there and keeping up with all that. And I appreciate you checking in with us today, Sean.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks. So that was our Sean Paulzer, and yes, you go to the westernstandard.news to see more of his stories out there. He covers a lot of this beat quite well.